What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of AYS Fight Club. It's going to be episode 34. So we rolling. We go ahead and jump into it. I know a lot of y'all follow me personally, know I got a lot going on, but love being here, love talking to y'all. Talking about MMA, writing about MMA has always been my therapy. So if anything, I need to do this more than ever. A lot of y'all know I lost my mom unexpectedly 2 months ago yesterday, and then lost my uncle today, my dad's youngest brother. So it's been a lot going on. Just I'll get through it. We'll get through it. It's just one of the things. But I got my MMA family, and I appreciate all that. Um, the house cleaning here before we get going. As always, subscribe to the Are You Serious Sports on YouTube at AYS Sports. Check it out there on YouTube. Check it out here on Facebook. There's plenty of places you can check us out. Also on the Twitter, AYS Fight Club, AYS_Fight Club on Twitter. Go ahead and add me over there. Like I say this every week. We don't have to just talk on Thursdays about MMA. We can talk every day about it. Get on there, post, stuff. I try to get active with it. It's been a little road bump here lately with everything I got going on personally, but about to get back onto that, and we'll get busy on talking about MMA on there. So we'll jump into it. We'll just have about a 30-minute show today. Just get some. I hate to have to miss an episode. So we only get once a week to talk. So we'll make the best of it. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the UFC 263, which was this weekend. I can't think of a time where there's been a bigger winner and loser, the same person. And somebody making their debut, much less in the UFC. Terrence McKinney, 7-second knockout, and then blows out or whatever he did to his knee on the celebration. Man, that's winning and losing in the same thing. I haven't heard any prognosis. I haven't really had time to check, but just that reminds me of Johnny Walker whenever it was his shoulder, blew out his shoulder or whatever after he won. But man, to get the knockout in 7 seconds and then blow your knee out celebrating, ooh, man, that's rough. I can definitely see something coming with the UFC putting out a notice here to the gyms and the fighters, letting them know you have to stay off the cages. So Justin Gaethje's celebratory, cage flip. They may keep them off the cages now, especially after something like this happening. I don't know. That's something the commission. I'm sure the organization can do it within the organization, but that may be one of those safety things. And you never know. MMA gets to the point where NFL is now, where you get a penalty for celebration. You never know what's going to happen. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on. We'll see, what happens with that, and we'll see how, make sure he's okay. Jump up here to the main card here. Paul Craig and Jamal Hill. Man, what we expected if Paul Craig was going to win, that's how he was going to win. Using his amazing jiu-jitsu for a bigger guy. Not that he's really big, but I mean for all of his wins coming by submission. This one was a TKO victory, but the submission is what set up the TKO. If it wouldn't have been for the submission where he popped out Jamal Hill's elbow, it looked like, and had his arm bending 90 degrees the whole other way. But that's what we'd expected Craig needed to do. Jamal Hill's a young guy, taking his first loss. He'll be back in there, but for somebody like Paul Craig, that's kind of what we expected to kind of happen. Bilal Muhammad, Damian Maia, same thing on that end. Muhammad you knew he'd want to keep it up. You knew Maia'd want to take it down. He did a great job on the defense. He stuffed a lot of the takedowns, which it was the important thing. We knew that would be the key. Keeping it on the feet. Obviously with Maia, there's very few guys on the ground that are more advanced, than him. So like so far these first two fights were, you knew what the game plan for each fighter would be. It would just be who was able to execute their game plan. Um, and then we had, which was pretty bizarre before it even started. The third fight from the top was a 5 rounds fight. Leon Edwards and going for 5 5-minute rounds. The third fight down on the card, not for a title, even no title fight, and not the main event or even the co-main event. So that was pretty odd in and of its own. I think Dana White's reasoning was that when the two had previously signed the fight, just like I think it was just last month or so, it didn't get pushed back by much, that they were already training for a 5 round fight. So they just kept it at that. So if the fighters go into it wanting the 5 rounds, let them do it. Especially if they've already been training for it. Let it go. If they all want to do 5 rounds, make them all 5 rounds. Obviously depending on the state, you can only do so many rounds per night, which is why PFL a lot of times on their tournaments, if it's like a multi-round in one night, it's 2 rounds, because a lot of states you can only do 5 rounds, in a day or whatever, 5 rounds within a certain time period. But Leon Edwards got all 4 rounds, but that last round he took a shot from Diaz that put him on wobble streak there, but he held on and rode it out and did what he needed to do. Leon Edwards definitely deserves a title shot now, but I believe Covington's getting the next shot. And as long as Edwards will sit back, he'll get whoever wins out of Usman and Covington. I mean, it's probably going to be Usman. But, Edwards is next up now. He definitely should be after the names he's went through. And, really who else is there for Usman? He's went through a lot of the division, so it's right time, right place, right circumstances for Edwards. He's done what he's needed to do to get himself, in the right situation. And then going up to the co-main event, which was a 5 round fight that didn't need the 5 rounds, was Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. And it was the rematch. Their first match ended up being a draw. So they ran it back this time. Moreno taking the dominant win, getting the submission, the rear naked choke within the third round, become the first Mexican-born UFC champion. I know there's been others of Mexican heritage, Cain Velasquez, Tito Ortiz, but I don't think they were born in Mexico. So he's the first Mexican-born champion in the UFC. So we'll have to see what's going to happen there. Maybe Figueiredo can get into it. I don't know how the contract was written, since they kind of they had the draw and then this one, so I don't know if he's going to get the immediate rematch. I could see him needing one more. But I would have to look at the rankings and see, who could. I'll do that right now. We'll take a look at it, because there could really be, and that's kind of what you have with visions is, who could be up next. I'm gonna get that to load here. Normally, the other computer I use, when I turned it on over an hour ago, said it needed to do an update, and it's still doing the update. It's like 21%. It's been going for like an hour, so that's just kind of a lot of ability. But getting these rankings here pulled up, and we'll see. Who even could be for Figueiredo. Let's see who we got. All right, so number 1, Brandon Figueiredo. Number 2, Askar Askarov. Pantoja is 3. Alex Perez is 4. Joseph Benavidez is 5. So Figueiredo needing to get a dominant victory. One of those guys to get the next title shot. The next shot, maybe Askar and Moreno, and then Figueiredo with one of those other top five guys and needing a solid dominant win to get the rematch, or fight, if Oscar wins, to get that challenge. So we'll see. There's a lot now to watch there at the top of the flyweight division, see what happens. And then what many people like to what happened in the main event, Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori. They go the 5 rounds, but totally different fight. This one went to the decision, just like their first fight went to a decision, but it's a totally different road to that decision. Adesanya with a unanimous decision, taking all 5 rounds, where last time it was the split decision win. It's just a lot more dominant this time. Just both fighters have grown since their first matchup, but Adesanya is just leaps and bounds above everybody else in that division. His only loss even recently compared to the fights he's had is the Jan Blachowicz, but that's light heavyweight, whole different weight class. Blachowicz is just a whole different monster. I mean, he's probably powerful than a lot of heavyweights, much less a middleweight. So we'll see what's next for Adesanya. Some more light heavyweights fights, maybe not, Blachowicz, obviously. He wants to take a couple, more. But right now, looking at the rankings, Whittaker's #1, Close 2, Cannonier's 3, Vittori's 4, so they flip-flop because Cannonier was 4, and then Derek Brunson at 5. So there's still some names there for him to challenge. Jack Hermansson's up at 6, Darren Till at 7, Uriah Hall at 8, Gastelum at 9, and Shabazian at 10. So that's the top 10. So yeah, there's still some names there for him to go through. So as far as Vettori, we'll have to see. He's already fought Adesanya twice and lost both. Makes it harder whenever you've fought the same guy a couple of times and lost on both ends. Only once as the champion, but I mean, still, the person is the person. He's lost to Adesanya twice. He definitely. I mean, he's almost going to be like Figueiredo, where he's going to have to go through. Vittori's probably going to have to do it more than he's probably going to have to knock off a couple of those top 5 guys. Costa and maybe Cannonier or Brunson and Cannonier or something. He's going to have to knock a couple of those guys off if he wants another shot. So we'll see from there. I mean, there's still a lot for Adesanya to go through. We'll see what shakes up with flyweight. So a lot to see. Leon Edwards now locked himself up at welterweight. So this main card really answered a lot of questions, or at least propelled forward the rest of what can happen with the rest of the year, with a couple of these divisions, the couple of the top matchups now that can be made. So transitioning from last week to this week's coming event, which will be Saturday. Definitely looking forward to this one. It's going to be UFC Vegas 29. It's going to be on ESPN Plus. Definitely looking forward to this. Chan Sung Jung and Dan Ige in the main event. I'm a huge fan of the Korean Zombie. Love the Korean Zombie. Man, I'm always going to go with him. I love his style. Love everything about him. Always been a huge fan. He's coming in with a record of 16-6. Just had to take a couple of years off for mandatory military service in Korea. So I think that was about 2 years or so. He had a couple wins over Hanato Moicano and then the win over Frankie Edgar, but then lost the decision to Ortega at the end of last year. So this will be his first fight of 2021, being in there with Dan Ige. He's 15-3. Has definitely made a name for himself lately. So this is, this will answer a lot of questions too at the top of featherweight too. Obviously with Ortega and Volkanovski coaching the Ultimate Fighter, so they have that on that end. But this can answer a lot as far as who could be up, being these guys being the top. And Max Holloway, their fight just fell out. I think that was just earlier today. I didn't get all the information on that, but I saw briefly that fell apart. So this is huge for the Zombie. This can really propel him up. Um, so we'll have to see what happens with, Holloway's at 1, Ortega's at 2, Rodriguez at 3, Zombie at 4, and Calvin Kattar at 5. So, and Dan Igue's at 8. So this could be huge for Ige because this could definitely propel him up with a win. Zombie could, get himself in those top couple of guys and definitely get himself in title talk. Volkanovski and Ortega probably going to tie up, and then Holloway and Rodriguez, we'll have to see if that's going to be rescheduled or, what's going to happen with that. But Zombie can find himself, sitting very nicely. There after this main event, if he can pull out the victory, being a main event and then getting the win over, a hot prospect like Dan Ige, whose only recent loss is to Calvin Kattar. He's got the knockout over Gavin Tucker in his last fight. That was in March. He had 22 seconds. And then prior to the Ige loss, to the Kattar loss, Ige hasn't lost since January 2018. And several finishes along the way, split decisions. Just showing that he can grind through big names, Edson Barbosa, Kevin Aguilar, Jordan Griffin, Mike Santiago. So showing that he can grind through it as well. So that's definitely going to answer some things and featherweight clear up some things at the top there as well. Like I said, with Korean Zombie ranks up there in those top couple of slots, that's going to clear up some things for him as well too. And then in the co-main event, a couple of heavyweights going at it, just two guys at the opposite ends of the spectrum in their career. Alexei Olenek is like 75 fights in his career, and then Sergey Spivak, who is 12-2. I think he's like 26 years old. So this is definitely going to be interesting too. Both of these guys are at the tail end of the heavyweight division. So this can help see who's going to start that climb up to the mid ranks of the top 15 or so, work their way up there. Alexei Olenek is, let's see what his record is, 59, 15, and 1. So definitely a man who knows how to get his hand raised in the cage for sure, and mostly by submission. He's got several submission. I think he's got 40 plus of his victories are by submission. 46 of his 59 wins are by submission. 46 submission wins. Most fighters don't even get 46 wins in their career, and he's got that many just by submission. But his last 2 fights have been TKO losses. So we'll see. It looks like it's slightly starting to go downhill a little bit. Before that, his last win was against Fabricio Verdum by split decision. So we'll see. Verdum's had a rough go. I think it was PFL a couple weeks ago. He lost his bout. So we'll see what this will do for him. But as far as Sergey goes, 12-2, 26 years old, coming in with a 2-fight winning streak, and prior to that, his loss was to Marcin Tybura. Matt Tybura's been on a roll lately. Definitely one of the hottest heavyweights in the UFC right now. He's quietly been doing his thing. He's been in the UFC. He made his debut against Walt Harris. He lost that in 2019, but since then, he's definitely had progressed. So we'll see. The young, the young heavyweight versus the old heavyweight. It could be a changing of the guard type matchup in the heavyweight division, but in heavyweight, it always seems to be the ageless wonders, division. It just always seems like the older fighters in the heavyweight division and do quite well. But I'm not even considering that. Just overall, looking at his last couple fights for Olenek, it looks like the wear and tear of 75 plus professional bouts is starting to weigh on him. So we'll see what goes on with that one. And then next we have working our way down. We have Marlon Vera and Davey Grant. Marlon Vera coming in with a record of 18, 7, and 1. And he has his last victory was the Sean O'Malley victory. That was in August of 2020. But since then, he took a fight at the end of the year in December against Jose Aldo. She lost the unanimous decision, but he went all the way with Aldo. It says a lot. Um, he looked good in his O'Malley bout. If he can kind of bring that back, and he finishes fighters. He finishes. I think 16 of his 18 wins have come by the finish. Especially for the smaller weight classes, you don't necessarily get that as much. Bantamweights and flyweights, when you get really down in the smaller weight classes, he gets it done. He finishes guys, and that's huge. Especially when you're trying to work your way up the ladder. Winning isn't necessarily just winning. There's levels to winning in mixed martial arts. It's just the way it is. Anytime you have subjective voting or subjective placement, it makes a big deal on how you do it, how you win. Oh, same thing with boxing. You may go up one spot if you get a decision win, but if you knock the guy out in the first round, you may go up 3 spots. And why? Just because people put you there. So there is when you have humans doing that, we all have emotions. We're all especially if you're into combat sports, you're going to get emotional when you see big knockouts and big slick submissions and stuff. And you're probably going to throw more support toward that fighter than the guy kind of grinding out a decision but winning. So those things do come into play. For Vera, he's getting the finishes. He got the opportunity against O'Malley. He won. Making the best of it. Who he's stepping in there with David Grant was 11-4 on a 3-fight winning streak. Last 2 fights were knockouts. Last summer, and then he fought in March. So he's already got a win this year under his belt. Another guy the same way. 11. All of his pro wins have come by finish, with 8 of those by submission. So if it goes to the ground, he's going to do, definitely do his work. But he's also shown that, especially here lately, that he can win with a knockout. That's huge, especially when you get a lot of times you see that where the guys on the regional scene, they got first round knockout, first round submission, first round knockout. And when they get in like UFC or some of these, it's split decisions. It gets harder. Obviously the level of difficulty, goes up, just like with any other sport. Using a sport I like to compare MMA to is baseball. I think it's almost the closest structure. With baseball, you have single A, double A, triple A, then the majors. Obviously, as you go up, the theory is that each level gets a step harder, it's a step closer to the big leagues. And same thing with MMA. You have your regional organizations. Some are at different levels than others. It just is what it is. But I support all regional MMA. You should too if you have some regional MMA in your area. Go support those guys 100%. I've said that 100 times and I'll say it 100 more. But it's the same thing, Obviously, nobody's going to really argue if you say UFC is the top organization right now in the world. It is what it is. You got Bellator's up there and Ryzen and KSW and things like that, depending on what part of the world you're in. It could be a little different. But your top handful of organizations, everybody knows who they are. So your regional organizations feed into these bigger organizations. So it's common to see that, kind of more of a dominant performance. And then as they move up, it gets a lot tougher. It goes from easy knockouts to really grinding out a decision. But when you see a guy, like what David Graham is doing, where he's finding his striking knockout game as he's developing, that shows truly that he's developing his skills. And obviously at a high level of development if he's able to do it on such a big stage. So there's a lot to be said. Definitely something Vera to walk out. Watch out for it. He can get into a fire fight with Grant, especially with the fight lately. That'd be dangerous. So, very early part of his wins. You know, fire versus fire. We'll just have to see. And, and some okay, we're back. Some kind of glitch in the system there. I guess I said 30 minutes, and I'm at 31 minutes, so I guess that was my sign there. So we'll punch these out here real quick. What else? Talking about we got two more fights here on the card. Wellington Turman, 16-4, split flop wins and losses. So he's 1-2 in the UFC. So definitely not a good sign there. Coming off of a first round knockout in August of last year, so almost about a year. And then he's going to be taking on Bruno Silva. It's 19-6. Uh, definitely two young guys that want to get going. Silva is his UFC debut coming in from M1 with 2 first-round finishes. That's been 2018, so it's been a couple of years since he's been in the cage. So, 2 millions that are definitely going to want to get at it here and get a win and get going in the right direction. And then the first fight on the main card is Diego Lima and Matt Brown. So it's definitely going to be fireworks on that one. Brown with 40 fights now in the UFC. Diego Lima, brother Douglas Lima, who just lost his Bellator championship, kicking off the main card. So that's definitely going to be a nice fight there to get going. So knock out these last couple segments we got here, and then we'll get out of here because apparently the system didn't like me when I said 30 minutes. I guess I said that too loud. So boxing, the boxing corner. It's going to be our boxing segment. Try to give everything a name here. Just real quick, Teofimo Lopez bout is now delayed. Lopez tested positive for COVID, and the card is pushed back a month or so. So the whole card is off. The whole card is pushed back. So not just that fight, because that was pretty much the fight that was going to sell the card for Triller, trying to get away more from the freak fights and put on a real boxing show. Kind of fell apart already. So they're just pushing the whole card back. So we'll see, what's going to go on with that. And leading, from some of those fallouts now, Anderson Silva. I mean, he's still supposed to be boxing soon here. But Oscar De La Hoya is now supposed to be boxing Vitor Belfort in September, I believe. So we'll see how that goes. You get a lot of the older MMA veterans, older boxing veterans getting back in there, for the money, I guess. So, last segment as always, 3% Polish. KSW 62 is later next month, middle of July. Not much going on with it right now. It just got, announced at the last event, which, that's kind of what they do. There's one fight announced. So, we'll see how that goes. There are a lot of events up. Babylon 823 is coming here next week, I believe, and FE back in action. Archer Swinty, former lightweight champ, on the KSW card next month, which is a month from today. So we'll see. Pretty much once they announce a fight, especially KSW, once they put one out, to kind of get the main event out. They had some issues getting a main event put together. Had a couple fallouts and getting something put together. Because typically it's right, that normally they officially announce it. It just got officially announced, kind of been out there that this would be the main event. But things can happen. It could be something else. But typically once they put it out, we'll get a co-main event here pretty soon, and then they just kind of start flooding out. KSW typically does 9 fights, and after you get the first 2 or 3, then they just kind of snowball out. So next week we may have a couple more to talk about, and then the week after they could all be announced, and it's kind of snowball pretty quick. So we'll wrap it up here and make it a quick show. As I said at the beginning of the show, make sure to follow us, AYS Fight Club on Twitter, AYS_Fight Club. How you find us? Let's talk MMA more than just Thursdays. Let's talk all the time. That's the way to do it there. And as always, subscribe to the Are You Serious Sports Network page on YouTube. It's AYS Sports on YouTube. AYS Sports on YouTube. Everybody go over there, add and subscribe there. Can't catch the show even here for Fight Club. Benefits us. You can't catch it on Facebook. You can catch it on YouTube. You can catch, the main show that Blake does every day, Monday through Friday, except Thursday. That's my day. But if there's something going on, he'll get a show on Thursdays too. I know he does some Saturday morning shows. Just depending on what sports season it is and what's going on. That's always at 7 p.m. Central. On the RU Series Sports Network, Facebook, YouTube, all those good things. That's where you catch this show every Thursday. So, make sure support us with the ad there. And that's going to be it for this week. Hopefully things will get back on track. We can get more, I can get myself more put together. But, I just wanted to come on here, at least have some kind of show. Kind of wung it tonight. We just went on a wing and, literally just put all this together the last second. But, wanted the show. Next week, we'll talk about the fallout from UFC Vegas. We'll see how the main event with the zombie went. See what other developments we got with KSWs. Maybe find out what's going on with Holloway. So there's a lot of things in the mix. We'll keep an eye out and ear out. There's always fight announcements coming on. MMA is, I love MMA, is it's a 12-month-a-year sport. There's no off season in MMA, and there's a ton of organizations around. PFL is actually on right now, so we can talk about that too. Rory McDonald's in the main event. Ray Cooper III's in the co-main event. That's two guys we may see eventually clashing. I would love to see that matchup. But we can kind of talk about the scoring system there. Even if Cooper wins tonight, he won't get any points because he missed weight. So we can talk more about that later on. But definitely interesting matchups there. So we'll catch all that up next week, and see whatever's new developing in the world of MMA and boxing. We'll hit it. So as we always say here, first rule of the Fight Club: tell all your friends about the Fight Club. And I'll talk to y'all next week.